Hey everybody, my name is Lucas Martin. I'm our business development manager here at ARC Advisory Group. I'm joined by one of our senior analysts, Rick Riss. Hey Rick, really appreciate the time, and I know you spent a lot of your time and effort on this new hydrogen electrolyzer study. So I just wanted to get a little interview going. Can you talk a little bit about just the overall market and the scope of your research, how much time you put into it?
Sure, I'm glad to help and give you some insights into the hydrogen electrolyzer market. That's what we're talking about today. ARC provided a MAR, or market analysis report, and we talk about hydrogen electrolyzers, and specifically we're talking about the electrolyzer product itself, not so much the water purification system upstream or the compression and distribution system downstream. Some of the electrolyzers are kind of packaged all those things together, and so we will include that in the market. But so we do try to focus on the core electrolyzer, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the depth of it.
Hey Rick, nice to see you here. Could you just describe for us a little bit about the supplier landscape for this market and what you've seen through the research of producing this research?
Sure. It's a very complicated landscape, actually. There's a very large number of new electrolyzer manufacturers that are joining the market to make electrolyzers. There's a lot of government incentives and cooperative programs and demonstration units, and therefore there's a lot of new suppliers that want to get their foot in the door and be recognized as a potential supplier. It's also interesting to note that the majority of the hydrogen electrolyzer manufacturing is occurring in China. There are a number of companies that have, European companies that maybe have sold electrolyzers and marketed electrolyzers, but the actual manufacturing of those electrolyzers often is done in China. The other thing that's very interesting about this is if you look at a number of the other market analysts and how they report the growth and CAGR of this, it's crazy because the installed base of hydrogen electrolyzers between 2021 and 2023 tripled. That's like a 300% CAGR, right? So you can't even almost look at CAGR objectively in the long term. The question is that type of growth can't be sustained, but it will be. But what we're seeing is just an unprecedented growth at the beginning of a brand new market for a product that just wasn't produced. Green hydrogen is a very small percentage of the market, and green hydrogen requires electrolyzers to make. So how this unfolds, we can talk about a little bit more because there's a lot of different options of how that will occur. But the supplier landscape is all kinds of suppliers are scrambling to produce, a couple of different types of electrolyzers, and it's a free-for-all.
Interesting. I know you said it sounds like there's a lot of new suppliers, new quote-unquote players in the market. Can you talk about maybe some growth inhibiting factors that some of these companies may experience?
Well, of course, growth inhibiting factors, at the moment don't exist. It's all growth, supporting factors in the short term. The growth inhibiting factors really will kind of kick in to say whether or not this is just kind of initial marketing hype and whether the government support suddenly ends. There's a lot of Department of Energy, there's a lot of Investment Recovery Act, there's a lot of support from European companies, and there's a lot of companies that want to demonstrate that they could use hydrogen or make hydrogen. But the problem you have today is that green hydrogen cannot compete with the price of conventional gray, brown, or black hydrogen without these subsidies. So the question comes up is, will long-term there be the necessary government regulations, incentives, whatever, to encourage green hydrogen to become the dominant form of hydrogen in the marketplace? Currently, most of the hydrogen in the marketplace today is black, brown, and gray hydrogen. That's basically black coal, brown coal, and methane steam reforming. And the the way hydrogen is used today is about 55% goes to ammonia, 25% goes to refineries, 10% goes to methanol, and maybe another 10% goes to other miscellaneous uses, bottled gases, rocket engines and other things. So only about a fraction of 1% of all that hydrogen being produced worldwide today is green hydrogen. So in principle, green hydrogen could grow to become the dominant source of hydrogen. All of those other hydrogen types, have significant greenhouse gas issues, and whereas green hydrogen does not. But at the moment, there's no penalty for putting that CO2 out in all of the other all of the other hydrogen manufacturing processes.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So I want to ask you this question, but you can't give us too much. But what are some of the strategies that you would recommend to a buyer of this system?
The asset owners, the technology users, yeah.
Sure. If you're going to be a buyer of an electrolyzer, you're probably going to want to put that electrolyzer right at the point of use, right? Why would you want to have the electrolyzer far away and truck or pipeline hydrogen to you, all right? So you also need to describe your functional requirements for hydrogen. You've got to buy a product that meets your needs. You may need to have a certain capacity of hydrogen. You need to have the ability to throttle or turn down the rate of hydrogen production. You may have some issues on how pure your hydrogen must be. And a lot of processes require high pressure hydrogen. If you're going to fill a hydrogen vehicle, you need, H70. You need, very high pressure, 10,000 psi. Also, in the life cycle of hydrogen, it's very, very important to get the overall energy efficiency. The cost of the electrolyzer in the life of hydrogen will be the small part. The cost of electric power to run that electrolyzer will be the large expense in the long run. So you want to have an efficient electrolyzer. So then that's, you got to get it from somebody that can support it, spare parts. You may have to need to integrate the control system of the electrolyzer into the process that needs that hydrogen. And you also might consider as kind of like the hydrogen as a service model. You could get companies like Linde or Air Products to design, build, and install the electrolyzer at your site and provide you with hydrogen. They could provide it by bottled gas, but if you need a lot of hydrogen, they'll build an electrolyzer for you. These companies have said, hey, we've been in the hydrogen business for a long time. We understand it. We can basically become electrolyzer independent. We have no ties to any company, but we can put the electrolyzer you need and put the whole system together and make it work.
Interesting. Well, hey, Rick, I know we're slowly running out of time here, and I know you had mentioned kind of some of the trends around, green hydrogen, subsidies from the government, et cetera. Is there anything else, any key trends that kind of stuck out to you while you were doing this research? Anything that you want to bring up to the audience?
Well, I think that, a lot of people look at the hydrogen market as having a lot of hype, and there is a certain amount. And a lot of people say, their first look of hydrogen is, oh, great, you burn hydrogen, there's no emissions. The second look when you looked at hydrogen was, it's really hard to make. It's very complicated. It's very expensive. Electrolyzers use a lot of power, and it's very hard to distribute. It's very hard to handle. So there's a lot of specific issues. Hydrogen is explosive. Hydrogen is so hard to ship in quantities that it takes a very heavy truck to ship a teeny amount of hydrogen. All right. So it's got these types of issues. This is kind of the landscape, and I think that it's very clear that ultimately the market potential is that all ammonia production, refineries, methanol, and the main users of hydrogen will at some point switch to green hydrogen. That could be a long ways away. So I think the main issue to deal with is the one of timing. To some extent, you're gambling on how quickly our world will put the regulations in place that will require all consumers of hydrogen to consume hydrogen without CO2 and methane emissions.
Rick, well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you speaking with Lucas and I. Can you share your email so audience members can contact you regarding this study?
Sure. You can find me, Rick Riss, R-Y-S, at arcweb.com. My email is rrys@arcweb.com. Happy to give you more information. And I think if you're interested in some of the studies and other things we've written about, you could further develop your strategy of how you're going to, where your place in the hydrogen market, whether you're a consumer or a producer, where are you going to stand?
Amazing. Thank you so much.